Today I am joined with my buddy, Jay Fudickar. Jay is the founder of Jay Riley Recruitment and has developed a reputation as the recruiter the construction industry works with to hire veterans and top professionals. So we're going to get to hear Jay's story today and hear about Jay's experience as being a veteran himself and how he's been able to give back to the community that he loves so much. And Jay's going to share how the Relevant Recruiter program has helped him pick up 13 new clients, how he's been able to re-engage into the existing clients he has, add some additional revenue to his business, as well as bring on some new employees, and ultimately add some confidence into his business development strategy. So Jay, thank you so much for hanging out here with me today.
Yeah, appreciate the invite. Always a pleasure.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So before we get into all the good stuff, share a couple highlight, personal highlights. What's going on with the family and things like that?
Yeah, so live up in the Woodlands, Texas, north of Houston.
Go
married.
Stros.
Yeah, no, I don't want to hear that right now. but like I was telling you earlier, if the Astros had to lose to a team, I'm glad it was the Braves. But yeah, married, wife, 2 kids, 2 dogs. But yeah, I was in the Army for 10 years myself, chemical operations specialist, and deployed to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, and ended up doing a stint in training operations, and then finished off as an Army recruiter. Hence how I got into what I do today.
That's beautiful, man. Well, thank you for your service first off. And yeah. Did you say say the title you were a operations chemist specialist? So
I was a chemical operations specialist. It's been called NBC, or nuclear biological chemical. Now they've changed it to chemical biological radiological nuclear, and I think they've added an E to it. I don't know if they've added a Q. They add all sorts of, for now, it could be some other alphabet that I don't know about, but basically I was a glorified car washer. We did a lot of decontamination operations. We did hazardous materials, toxic industrial chemicals, toxic industrial materials. But mostly I did a lot of paperwork.
Got it. So it's a fancy title, then. Huh?
Yeah. It sounds all nice on paper, but I was a gopher.
Did you how did you like, was it just kind of a natural transition for me to go from being in the Army to then an Army recruiter?
I mean, it's probably the hardest job in the Army, at least from a mindset standpoint, because being an Army recruiter, it's a very individual effort. Now, they've made strides over the years to kind of make it more of a team effort, but honestly, you show up to your recruiting station, they say, all right, here are your schools, here's your area of operation, give me 2 contracts a month. And there's minimal guidance, whereas when you're in the normal Army, garrison Army, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of structure, there's a lot of policies, procedures, SOPs, or standard operating procedures in place, and there's a lot of knowledge that you can bounce off of, and you get more time to learn. Whereas as a recruiter, just kind of throw you into the water and hope you don't drown. So
right.
A lot of people can't make that transition, and it can become a very stressful 3-year term for Army recruiters.
Right.
I loved it.
Harder to do Army recruiting, or just the recruiting you're doing now?
Would do what?
Is it harder to do Army recruiting or the recruiting you're doing now?
I think both of them are challenging in their own ways. Army recruiting can be very, very challenging, but at the same time, I think if you focus on the actual person and what they're looking for, and you treat it as if you're a career counselor, or in my case, I treat myself as a consultant first and then a recruiter second. It actually makes it a lot easier. I mean, look, the military is not for everyone, just like the clients that I work with aren't for every single candidate, and vice versa. So,
right.
At the end of the day, if you can understand what that candidate's looking for, or what that applicant is looking for in their next step, I think recruitment can be incredibly, easy. It's just when you don't understand what they're looking for, that's when the challenges start to arise.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. So did you go right from Army recruiting to your own business, or what's the story there?
So the story is I got out of the service and I said, never again, I'm done with recruiting. So I ended up taking a job as a sales rep and learned an awful lot. But this sales role required a lot more mechanical expertise. And as I mentioned earlier, I was more of a paperwork kind of guy. I wasn't turning wrenches. So it didn't quite work out. And that was about the time when I got, reached out to by a recruiting firm. They're like, hey, you want to come back to recruiting? And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I've been in recruiting ever since. So yeah.
So how long ago was that?
So civilian recruiting started for me in 2014. So I was in the Army from 2004 to 2014. Got out the earlier part of that year, and I probably lasted about 5-6 months. Had that first job in sales, and then pretty much from then on, I've been in the recruitment space.
Got it.
Yeah.
So when did you decide to start your own firm?
So I was one of the weird ones. I started it during the pandemic.
Okay.
So basically, it was kind of one of those situations where I was evaluating my future, and the pandemic kind of hit. I was on furlough, and kind of came down to that point where I was like, okay, I can either go back and go work for somebody else, or I can go ahead and kick this thing off, because prior to joining my previous company or my previous employer, I'd kind of toyed around with the notion of going into it for myself. But I really wanted to have that other perspective of another recruitment firm,
right,
to really understand how the business works. So, but yeah, no, it started it last year, right around the pandemic. I'm not going to lie, it was kind of slow at first, but things have been picking up ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it takes guts to start a business in the middle of that fun we went through. Well, I guess we're still going through it too, right? So yeah, that's good for you, man. So what was, when you kind of went out on your own, what was the biggest difference between working for somebody else and recruiting and then starting your own business?
So fortunately, I've always been trained to be what we call a 360 recruiter. And for some of those out there who don't know what that is, recruitment's really split up into two desks. There's obviously the focus solely on recruitment, and then the solely on the business development. Those are basically 180. Whereas for me, I started off in recruitment, focusing on both recruiting and business development. So I own the entire recruitment process, from initial intake calls with my clients all the way through, candidate calls and closing offers. So the transition itself wasn't like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Where it became a bit of an issue or a challenge was just kind of incorporating more of the business operations side,
right,
for me. And I finally got to put the MBA that I earned to use a little bit, but at least I knew how to ask the right questions. But for the most part, it hasn't really been a difference. It's just more of just kind of owning the operational side of the business.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, going from being some stuff handed to you being able to, kind of handle it all on your own. Yeah. Fortunately, you had that 360 experience, huh?
Yeah. Acquisition lines and all that was hey, we've got payroll, we've got, contracts, we've got marketing, we've got all this other stuff. So it was a lot. It was a lot.
Did you think through all that before you started the whole thing?
I thought through some of it. I mean,
yep.
You always like to think you know a lot, and then when you start doing it, you know nothing. So right. It was definitely a humbling experience.
Yep. Very cool. So what do you think, like as you went out and started your own recruiting business, like what were you trying to solve in the marketplace, or what were you trying to do differently, than the next recruiting company out there? I mean, at this point now, what do you think makes your company different than the next out there?
So the biggest motivation for why I started my company is honestly my passion for helping veterans. Being a veteran myself, I knew the challenges of veterans in the marketplace. And, throughout my recruitment career, no matter, who I worked for, there was always that kind of need from clients like, hey, you're a veteran. I'd love to have more veterans, in my company. How do we go about doing that? And look, there are plenty of companies out there that do a fantastic job, both, for-profit, nonprofit, that help veterans transition from the service into their first careers. But where I felt there was really a bit of a gap was the veterans that actually have the industry experience, helping those veterans and connecting clients who really need a level of expertise in their industry, but they want those veteran intangibles, the leadership traits, the work ethic, the loyalty, the camaraderie that the veterans bring to an organization. So for me, that was the biggest driving factor for me to start my business. Is I really wanted to bridge that gap between veterans that actually have construction experience,
right,
to companies that want to hire more veterans. And so that was really the driving factor for me.
Yeah, that's inspiring, man. I know a lot of people get into the recruiting industry because there's money to be made, and it's inspiring. I know you're making money along the way too, but it's inspiring. You have a bigger purpose there.
Sure.
Yeah. Before we get into all the real good stuff, tell me about those two gentlemen sitting behind you.
Oh, these fine gentlemen. Yes, I actually did make a video about these guys, but this is probably one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie. If you ask my wife, she'll say, yeah, Step Brothers is his favorite movie, but she was hounding me on, well, you need to add some color to your office. And she was talking about floral pictures and, Monet knockoffs and whatever. And I'm like, no, not a chance. And, thankfully Facebook, read my mind and listened to my conversation, as they creepily do sometimes. And up pops up a picture of these two fine gentlemen behind me. And I bought it instantaneously and threw it up on the wall. And my wife has resented me ever since.
Yeah. She didn't approve of that one, huh? That wasn't the florals that she had in mind, huh?
Look, they were about to go in for interviews. So, I mean, as a recruiter, I've got to have my star candidates on the wall. And
yep,
this is what I got to do.
Got to prep them for Pan or Pam, huh? Well, right on, man. Want to talk a little bit about our work together. Like you mentioned, obviously went out on your own a year ago. I mean, what was the motivating factor for you to reach out, to me and consider doing some work together?
So, I mean, for me, it's a lot about messaging. It was a lot about being relevant in my market. When you start a business, especially in the recruitment space, I mean, it's really about fine tuning everything, because you can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
I knew I wanted to recruit in construction. I knew I wanted to help veterans out, and I wanted to get that message out to the market in an efficient manner. And I knew, I've done some stuff with automation. When it comes to email campaigns, I've dabbled in LinkedIn automation as well. But I really wanted to fine tune that approach, because especially in the construction space, you can't just pick up the phone and call, you can't call a project manager out on site and just say, hey,
right,
look, you want to recruit for people, because they're out on site, they're delivering. So it's a matter of getting those touch points, getting in touch with these clients, and just being relevant in the market. That was really a big reason for it.
Got it. Prior to us, working together, how are you engaging your clients? Like, how are you getting new clients?
I mean, fortunately, I've been connected to people throughout the years, but a lot of it was just cold email. I was getting a lot of cold emails, going through various scraping tools, and just kind of throwing it out there at random, shotgun blast, without a methodology to it.
Right.
And fortunately, I was able to get some clients early on, but I knew it wasn't sustainable for the long term.
Got it. Love it. So what do you think, of the work that we did together, what was most impactful, to you and your business?
Right out the gate, you hear a lot of these guys talking out there. Right out the gate for me, it was just getting that message, getting like,
Right.
who are you as a company? What do you want to accomplish? It wasn't, hey, I've got some tools for you, and throw out some templates and go team go. It was really about sitting down and, I won't say putting together a business plan, but really a marketing plan. Who I am as a company, what do I want to convey to my market? Who is my target market? And just the fine tuning of that message right out the gate. So that was huge for me. The support was huge as well, throughout the entire process. But just overall, just kind of identifying who I am, who I want to be, and kind of target the market that I'll be able to help the most.
Right. Love it. What do one of the things that our goal is to get you to stand out and differentiate yourself from the competition. And you kind of just talked about messaging right now, but do you think, like, now that we've done some work together, you feel like you've got a stronger position in the marketplace?
Absolutely. I mean, look, the barrier to entry in the recruitment industry is basically nothing. I mean, if you've got a laptop and a phone, you basically can become a recruitment consultant. But this has definitely helped me out, helped my business out, in terms of standing out. I'm starting to receive more calls instead of me having to reach out. Referrals are starting to come through a little bit more. And as I continue to put my name out there, to the right places, I think it's just going to be a lot easier for my business to grow.
Yeah. And I know you've been putting out content like crazy. I mean, were you doing that before us working together?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I still remember when you basically, called me out and said, yeah, go ahead and put that video out, and I was like, fine, I'll do it. And I put the video out and, got a few thousand views from there. And I've started putting out more and more videos, and, I've found that that's a pretty effective way to get your name out there.
Yeah. Some people are always like, well, why would I create content? Like, if I'm running a recruiting business, like, what's the value for me there? I mean, how would you describe the value now that you've kind of gone down this path and this journey?
It's about value add.
Right.
It's value proposition. I mean, look, recruiting is recruiting, right? But at the end of the day, it's what value are you adding to the clients that you're working with? What value are you adding to the candidates that you're working with? Because look, I could pick up the phone and say, hey, look, I got a great job, you want it. But how are you helping that candidate find their next career, whether it's through one of your opportunities or, maybe they find it elsewhere?
Right.
Content is basically displaying to your marketplace that, you're there to help them out. You know what you're talking about, and you're striving for more knowledge, but more importantly, you want to share that knowledge. Something that I've just noticed in the recruitment industry in general is that there's a lot of kind of cloak and dagger type of practices. It just doesn't seem like the knowledge sharing is really there. So,
Right.
When you're putting content out, I think that's really refreshing for the candidate and client market. They're seeing that recruiters are not just trying to hoard all the information; they're willing to share it with the market. So it's definitely a differentiator from that standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, as you started to create content? I know a lot of people usually have a little hesitancy of putting yourself out there. And, you said that I kind of had to lean on you to get that first video out. But, did you have a little bit of fear when you first started doing it? Where's that at now? And how's all that stuff?
So, the video stuff is a bit different.
Yeah.
I always like to write different things. I put out quirky polls from time to time. I've never really had an issue with the writing aspect. It was more the video aspect. So there was a level of discomfort there, but if you're not challenging yourself, how are you growing? So it's been a really great process to learn about generating content, and it's allowing me to think more and more about how am I going to benefit my clients, my candidates out there, my personal network. So it's been a really great experience from that standpoint.
That's awesome. Share, if you don't mind, just for others that are kind of wondering, like, what kind of content are we having you create? We've got our boys behind us and some fun, but in general, like, what do you typically shooting on your videos?
So I think there's really two ways that I think about content, at least. There's the candidate side of content, and I think there's the client side of content. And there's a whole bunch of different variables about what you can do. We don't just simply say, hey, this is my company and we recruit construction and blah blah blah, me. It's really about putting out content that's going, again, I'm going to use this term, value proposition, value add.
Right.
Everything that we're generating from a content standpoint is about how my company can help you out, how we can make your next career, a great move, or how we can bring you that top talent to your company. So it's taking the me out of a lot of the spam that you see out there. Yeah, we recruit this and we do this and I do this, to this is what we can do for you.
Right.
So that's the kind of content that we start to generate. Definitely makes you work a little bit harder for it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to just put out great content, but it's also going to help your engagement for your candidates and your clients. And you just start kind of embracing that mindset throughout your entire operation, and it even goes out to your employees as well. So it's a very positive content generation strategy.
Yep. And then we do a little bit of that fun stuff where you get to do interviews with the guys.
Yeah.
That was a great video. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. It's not always about business. It's not always about recruiting. Sometimes it's about something great that's happened to you and your family. It's having you connect personally with your network.
Right.
So it's not about, hey, how can I get more clients and get more candidates? It's more about being top of mind for your network. They want to be involved in your life as you want to be involved in their life. So we have a lot of fun with it as well.
Yeah, I know you do. So we've worked on your positioning in the marketplace, helping you stand out and differentiate, which you feel has made a major impact. We haven't talked a bunch about it, but you've got your LinkedIn automation campaigns that are generating new opportunities for you.
Sure.
We've got the content machine up and rolling, which is expanding your brand awareness and keeping you top of mind. And we're just now dabbling with some of the email marketing stuff as a whole. So we've got your system pretty well built out. We've got some other steps we can take that we've talked about.
Right.
But up to this point, do you mind sharing some of the tangible results? I think it's been about 4 months since you've actually implemented all these things.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but started implementing them. What are some of the results you're seeing?
I mean, if we're talking, revenue generation, easily 6 figures more in the business. I actually had to turn off the faucet from a business development standpoint, probably a good 2 months into it, because really it just got to the point where I had so much volume of work that, as a recruiter, you're supposed to recruit and deliver. Right. As much as it's great to sign contracts with new clients, those clients kind of expect you to, do your job. So
it's not just about signing clients.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it makes you feel good when you get a contract, but yeah, it's like, well, hiring for them is important. But I've gotten new clients. I've cultivated better relationships with my existing clients. I've really been able to expand my personal network in the construction space, especially with veterans in the community at a very large scale. I've probably added, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 to 10,000 new connections on LinkedIn. My referral network is starting to blossom as well. Really, it's just kind of that credibility or relevance in the market has started to expand. So it's like anything with marketing. That's why, with companies, some of them understand the value of marketing, where others don't understand it. It's not always dollars and cents and percentages. There's a lot of unseen benefits,
Right.
to marketing. It's kind of like you watch those home renovation shows, and they fix the plumbing, and of course the homeowners are pissed because, oh well, I spent $5,000 fixing plumbing, but it's plumbing. You got to flush your toilets, so there's the value in that. So, but overall, I mean, the benefits have been huge for us and going forward.
Nice.
I think I mentioned 13 new clients, but I mean, if we're talking about job orders, I mean, it's just been exploding for us.
That's awesome. And that's also, you've also had to hire somebody on to help you with the growth. Yeah.
Yeah, actually brought my brother on board. He's another Army veteran. He was a tanker, so he actually did real stuff. Yeah, he always calls me a pogue, and I'm like, yeah, proud of it. I'm all right with that. Somebody's got to push the paperwork, but no, I was able to hire him on board, and he's up and running. And for 2022, I've definitely got some pretty ambitious goals. Probably be looking to bring some more people on, to the business to expand.
Love it. What about, like, for you personally? I usually find that there's some sort of, up level as an individual.
Yeah.
Anything that you kind of, felt like you kind of up leveled at going through the program? Anything that impacted you as a person?
Oh gosh. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess the best way is yes. I'm very passionate about this business. I'm very passionate about helping veterans out, and it's really started getting me to think about, things beyond the business, beyond, placing veterans with my clients. It's really started getting me to think about, 3-5 year plans, potentially, trying to do some sort of nonprofit, or at least getting more involved with the veteran community from that standpoint. As I continue to build this business out, obviously the revenue generated from it will enable me to be able to give a lot more back, to veterans that need it. So it's been life-changing, to be able to see a future with this business. The marketing platform, the advice that I've been given in this program is really going to enable me to blow up this company, within the next few years, to the point where I can do a lot more, with the veteran community than I ever envisioned.
That's awesome to hear, man. That's really inspiring to hear. That's cool. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
If somebody's on the sidelines, thinking about joining my program or working, working with me, what would you tell them?
Do it. I mean, simply, do it. I mean, look, it's never an easy decision, especially when you're just starting out and you've got all these different things. You've got all these people reaching out to you about, hey, you should spend money here, you should do that. There is no easy button to doing this business and doing it right. There are plenty of people out there that will tell you, just grab a bunch of emails, shotgun blast it, and just, go from there. And that will work for a little bit, until you start ending up in their junk mail, until you start getting hostile emails back, from people. I kid you not, I think I had one guy reach out to me. He's like, I'm going to call the FBI on you, because he thought I was some guy out in, on the other side of the world. I'm like, no, my name's Jay. I'm here. I'm real. And but I definitely would recommend you do it, especially if you have serious intentions about growing your business and growing it the right way. Because look, anybody can start a recruitment company. It's about how long you want to be, running your company.
Right. What do you, kind of as you go into this next phase, and we're almost, we got 2 more months in 2021, but 2022, what are you most excited about kind of in your next coming months or next 12 months, so to speak?
Oh man. I think just growth in general. Continuing to grow my existing relationships with my clients. We're experiencing one of the best recruitment markets ever. And I don't think it's going to slow down anytime soon. The fact that we have remote capabilities now is making, companies much more lenient in terms of where people are located, in the United States. So I'm really excited about just the recruitment market in general. I mean, the construction industry is booming. We're always building, we're always renovating, we're always, making our,
Right.
Our lives better with that. But no, I think it's just, I'm just excited about growing this business at the end of the day. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's amazing. I know you're passionate. I can always hear it every time we have our meetings and just on this interview here. So, and I love that you have a bigger reason why. I love that all of this is so you can give back to, your fellow veterans and help out the community. And I think that's awesome. And that's usually a good motivating factor to keep you, keep you tied in when the rough parts hit, right?
Yeah.
So having that why is important. Thanks for sharing everything, today, about you, your journey, about your experience in the program. For those that want to connect with you, what's the best way for our listeners to get in touch?
I mean, look, we're on Facebook. You can always have a message. But yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it.
Perfect.
Best way to get in touch.
Awesome, man. I always like to ask people, I mean, what do you think is right or wrong about the recruiting industry right now?
Oh, what's right about the recruitment industry right now? I think integrity is starting to come into recruitment more and more. But I also think that's what's wrong with recruitment as well, is that I think there's a lot of companies that lack that integrity.
Right.
Definitely a core value for my business, and you check out my website. It's integrity is at the forefront of everything we do. I think that in our industry, there's a lot of people who are afraid to be honest, to have
Right.
that integrity. You don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or you don't want to push back. You don't want to challenge. You don't want to dig in deep. And then what ends up happening is you make that placement by hiding certain things from both the candidate and the client, just so you can get that fee. And yeah, you get that instant gratification. And then maybe that client fires you because the candidate didn't work out. But more importantly is that that candidate now has to go out and try to find another job that fits their skill sets better. That client now has to go out and re-engage the market. You're putting a bad taste in their mouth for recruiters that actually do care about helping people out. So,
Right.
if I can encourage everyone out there, really put yourselves in the shoes of the candidate. Imagine what it's like for you when you're searching for a job. What would you want a recruiter to do for you? And imagine you being a company owner. What kind of relationship do you want to cultivate with a recruiter? Do you want somebody who wants to go to bat for you? So, if when you're out there starting your business, you really need to put yourself in their situations and really, build your business with that mind, back in your mind.
Yeah. And I would agree. I think integrity, like you said, on both sides there's opportunity for, that's where it's really right. And I think and I do agree. I think there's a lot more people that are looking at making a bigger impact rather than, there's no barrier of entry into this, right?
It really
Like
is.
you need a laptop and a phone, and you're a recruiter. You don't need to go get your real estate license or your recruiting license. You just go out and start playing. And I think
Sure.
that's why there's so many, poor experiences from recruiters. And I think that's why it's even more important that, you differentiate yourself, because I think, if you ever do go to Google and type in recruiters are, yeah, it's pretty impressive what comes up after that list. And, I always tell people, it's like, look, if you're not doing anything to differentiate yourself, that's where people are going to kind of pocket you. You're going to be with that typical, the typical stigma with a recruiter.
Well, and unfortunately, you can go out there and spend thousands of dollars on SEO or search engine optimization, and you'll just end up flushing that down the toilet, because the minute you might get on page one of Google search, not even 2 months later, you've been, overcome with 15 other agencies that have started with similar jargon. And, you definitely got to stand out. And honestly, the best way to keep your clients happy, to keep your candidates happy is to take care of them. It is a vast market in general. There are a ton of agencies out there, but let me tell you that it's not so large that they won't forget about how you burn somebody.
Right.
The minute you burn people, it gets around like wildfire.
Yep.
So protect your reputation, take care of your candidates, take care of your clients, and you'll be amazed what happens.
Awesome. Jay, last question for you. I mean, a lot of people would love to have the success you're having right now. I mean, what's one piece of advice you would leave with the audience?
Always learn, always adapt technology. Don't be afraid to try things out. Share knowledge. Don't be afraid to share knowledge with others. Seek knowledge. I would almost say you need a mentor, or at least a plethora of mentors. One thing my dad always told me is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel to be successful. Look at the people who are wildly successful and try to emulate what they do.
Right.
Because look, there are so many great recruiters out there. I'd love to tell you that I'm the greatest thing next to sliced bread, but there are so many people who've been in this industry for far longer than me. There are people that haven't been in the industry as long as I have, and I'm learning from everybody.
Right.
Always happy to take criticism where I can, and acquire that knowledge. I mean, I watch YouTube more than I care to admit. So I mean, it don't get stuck in your ways. Don't be afraid to adapt to new things, and that's my advice.
Yeah, I would agree with that advice. I mean, and I didn't even have to pay you for that whole mentor thing there. That's great. But that advice I can 100% get behind right there.
Yeah, right.
Well, right on, man. Thank you so much for hanging with me today. Like I said, sharing your story, sharing about our work together, and just some of your other golden nuggets you dropped there. Really enjoyed working with you, most importantly, and the relationship we've developed and the friendship we've developed. And thank you for coming and hanging with me here on the Relevant Recruiter Show, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pleasure.
Excellent. Well, for those of you that are listening with us live, we will be back next week for another live training here on the Relevant Recruiter Group. It'll be live Wednesday at 12 PST. So come hang with me then. Until then, this is Donnie Gupton, Jay Fudickar. We'll see you guys soon.